All righty then. Hello, everybody. I am. They call me King Ruler. Why they call you King Ruler? Well, I used to be a graffiti artist, so I took the ruler. I used to write ruler all over buses throughout LA, but I kept the name because I always loved it. And one day my friend called me King Ruler, and I loved the name, so I kept it. So I am King Ruler. I am the creator of the PTHD concept, podcast, book coming, everything else. But today it's not about me, it's about my guests, and it's about the concept of PTHD. And we are talking about post traumatic hood disorder. It's a very real thing. If you don't believe me, just look in the mirror. If you're from the neighborhood, if you grew up in the hood, if you grew up in Watts, you grew up in the Bronx, you grew up in East Point, if you grew up in West Side of Chicago, you got some hood with you. And the thing about the hood is that it never leaves until you look it in the face. It's like a bully that follows you the rest of your life until you just stand around and turn around and look him dead in the face and say, "Get away from me. I don't want this anymore." And then you can begin the healing process of it. But if you don't, it will follow you into corporate America. It will follow you into your parenting skills. And it will also follow you into what we're talking about tonight. Tonight's show is about the bridal shower before. No, I said that in reverse. My bad, y'all. The baby shower before the bridal shower. Now, that's a concept that I know personally is well accepted in the neighborhood because in the neighborhood, if we want to throw stats out there, above 70% children are born to a single parent. Somewhere, somebody is saying in mass numbers that it's okay to co parent on my own. Because if not, they would have waited to become the bride. And I'm going to flip it because I don't want this to be about women because also the men have a big part in this. This is an equal opportunity situation. If we're not choosing a spouse, I'll say that before we decide to have a child, I want to know why. And our why this evening is going to link this concept. Just stay with me, y'all. It's going to link this concept to the hood and the PTHD in us, things that we've seen. I want to introduce my guest today. I have Kyra. Kyra, currently in Atlanta. She's a screenwriter. She's a mother. Awesome person. I met her on her own podcast. If you want to shout out your podcast, please go ahead and do so.
A Leap Before You Look podcast.
Shay, we had a great conversation the other day. I enjoyed it so much. I said, you got to come join me over here. Thank you for joining me, Kyra.
No problem.
And then we have Jasmine,
Hi.
straight out of LA, the author, the social worker, the bubbly spirit. Sound like you do a lot of things though. Also outside of those things, right?
Yeah,
What's
I
the
do.
Okay? What's the name of your book again?
It's called Pregnant and Unprepared Confessions of a Single Mother.
Whoa. Yeah, you on the right spot tonight. Okay. So let's do this, y'all. So today we're talking about putting, I don't know how you call this. I don't want to see because it's just y'all two right now, the brother. Oh, here he comes. He's here. Let's bring him in. Let's bring him in.
Awesome.
Let's see what happens. Oh, that's Anthony. That's not the brother. But we're gonna have Anthony in here anyway because he's gonna bring the male energy. Anthony, can you hear us?
Yes, I'm here.
Brother, you have been drafted to the show. Okay.
Hi, guys. Welcome.
This is my brother Anthony. Uh oh. My bad, man. Can you pick up? Won't be able to do it, brother. So we're gonna have you take the place of the other brother that's supposed to show up, bro. I appreciate you coming in. All right.
No worries.
Anthony, this is Kyra and Jasmine.
Okay.
All right, let's get it in. So, off the bat, let me ask y'all this. First of all, how many children do you have? I want to
I
know
have
that
one.
first.
I have one. I have
I
one.
have
Son.
one, yeah, too.
Boy, girl,
I have 4.
hold up. Skirt, hold up.
Hmm.
Say it again, Anthony.
I have 4. I have 4. I have 2 boys and 2 girls.
2 boys and
3
two
with
girls.
my ex-wife, and then 1 with someone after my wife.
Hmm. Okay. So you were married to your ex-wife. Okay. I'm gonna ask the ears over here, ladies. Were you married ever to the child's father?
No.
No.
No. Why not?
Engaged, but that doesn't count, right?
No, that doesn't count. Then.
More closer than
No.
me.
No, 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 no,
No.
no. Now, why not? I'll start with Jasmine. Why not?
You know what? Because he knows my answer is juicy. Anyways, y'all don't judge me, but he was my coworker, and so we had a co-work relationship, and he also had a girlfriend. So it was one of those, we were friends, coworkers, and then it happened. So that's why we just are not for each other. We tried afterwards, and it didn't work out.
Okay. What about you, Kyra?
The relationship I had with my son became abusive, so I had to leave it.
Mm,
So that was pretty much it.
mm.
That was why the it ended.
That's a good reason, girl.
That's
Yeah.
a real good reason.
Proud of you.
Yeah, very good.
So we're about to go down that slope. If y'all okay with this, right? So, what made you choose that person?
Hmm.
Like,
Kyra.
what was it about them? Like, what made you choose that person to procreate with?
Oh, Jesus.
I'll go with. I'll stay with Kyra for now.
Oh goodness. I don't I don't know. I honestly cannot say. I feel like at some point I was seeking validation, and that
Mm.
was where I kind of got it from him. And we had a relationship. We grew close. We were in a relationship, and then we ended up having our son.
Mm. How long after you began dating that person did you have your son?
Uh, so it was off and on for about 4 years.
Mm. That's a good wow.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
it
All right.
was very chaotic.
Kind of break up to make up type of deal.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Kyra, what about you?
Jasmine.
I'm talking about Jasmine. I'm sorry, Jasmine. What about
It's
you?
okay. Honestly, I kind of same situation. I was I shared with you a little bit. I was a foster parent to my godson at the time. So I was
Mm.
really struggling like mentally. It was very hard to just kind of endure that situation and be a parent overnight. I didn't want to be one. This is before I had my own daughter. And so I was really just kind of in a state of like wanting somebody to like kind of like escape to, and so I escaped with him, and there he was, and always trying to hug me and always try to hang out and always trying to like give me validation. So I think for me I just needed a distraction, and so that's kind of what I went to. Plus we worked together, so we were always together
Mm.
type.
Okay. Okay. Wow. Anthony, what made you choose your children's mother?
Well, to be fair, we had our son first, our oldest son first. Then we got married.
Ah.
Um, for me, we knew each other from junior high a little bit, and I'm gonna say the lack of love from my mother. So
Mm-hmm.
when she came around, she showed me some attention that was different from me,
Mm.
and so I went with it. And we stayed married. Well, we had, well, it's a long story, but we had our oldest son, and at that time I was the breadwinner. So I told her not to work until he was able to talk. So when he was able to talk, miraculously, she got pregnant again. So then I was like, okay, well, don't work again until this one's able to talk. And then when the second one's able to talk, she got pregnant again. And just, I had to sit back and realize that this wasn't the person for me. So after
Mm.
9 years, 364 days, we ended up getting a divorce. And then again, lack of love. I bumped into someone who showed me some more attention. And then I had another child. And then I started realizing, okay, I'm going down the same pattern.
Mm.
So something's up, something's wrong.
Mm. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
You know what they say. We either do what our parents do, or we do polar opposite. So, Jasmine,
Me, this one. Okay.
that one right there, yeah, that one. Were were your parents married?
They were married,
Mm.
and then they got a divorce when I was 13 years old. So that definitely did affect me. Um, if you want me to share, I can go into it.
Go ahead.
So they got a divorce when I was 13. And so my dad, he moved out the house. And so then we started kind of I'm a sibling of three. So
Mm.
we started going to my dad's house kind of every other weekend. But I also played sports, me and my sister. So we ran track.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of stopped going to my dad's house as often because we started going to track meets. And so, like, for me, I feel like my dad didn't really support me a lot. And my mom was always at every single track meet, like everyone. It didn't matter if I wasn't even that good at in the beginning. And side note, I got a full scholarship to go to school because of track and field. So, my mom was there, super supportive, and my dad ended up getting remarried. And the ladies' kids were like older, and I just felt like he was giving them all this attention. And I remember this one point in my life where me, my dad, my sisters, and the ladies' kids were all in a car. And I sing. I'm not going to say I'm the greatest singer, but I love
Mm-hmm.
music and I love to
Mm-hmm.
sing.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I was singing, and my dad was telling the other lady's daughter, "Oh, sing that again. That sounded good." And she told him that wasn't me. But no one asked me, like,
To
"Oh, was
sing.
it Jasmine?" Yeah. And so I just felt like I think I needed more of my dad's attention. And so I feel like now that I'm older, I can see why. And kind of like what Anthony was saying, like the struggle came from like lack of something. For me, it
Mm-hmm.
was lack of I think attention from my dad and like not feeling like I was enough.
Mm-hmm.
When you have when you're a child and I'm my daughter's father, and then you have this other girl coming in and getting all this attention or whoever, and it's like, what about me? I'm your child. So I think for me that was a struggle.
Mm. Are y'all seeing the common thread here so far?
Oh yeah, attention, validation, parenting, like black.
Mm.
Yeah, I was about to say that with my mom, I felt like I needed something from her.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just wasn't good enough for her. Like I'm the youngest of five girls. My parents got married before they had me. And then my
Mm-hmm.
sister that's right above me is not my dad's. It's not my dad's daughter. And so there was always this, and we were the last two in the house. So I felt like I was always competing with her for my mom's attention.
Yeah.
And then I feel like that's part of the reason why I chose my son's father.
Mm.
And then on top of that, my dad had issues with alcoholism, and my son's father has issues with substance abuse. So it's like seeing that, and my sister and my best friends like you're dating your dad and your mom to some degree. So
Mm.
I understand that exactly, needing that validation and missing that missing part from a parent.
Wow.
I could cry right now and just I
Oh,
could.
Well, don't cry yet. I haven't told you mine yet. Well,
you know.
my mom, yeah, my mom was married. My dad
Hmm.
was married to other people,
Hmm.
Mhm.
and they ended up having a fling, and I'm the product of a fling, I guess.
Mhm.
And I used to say I'm a product of a F. So that stayed with me, and
Wow.
it mentally messed with me for a long time. So I forgive them, I understand, but yeah, the lack of them being together, I guess, really messed me up. And I
Mm.
guess my mom was so ashamed of what she had done that when I was 3, she moved from Chattanooga, Tennessee to California to hide me. So when I grew up,
Wow.
I wouldn't look like the other man. So it's rough.
Mm.
Wow.
Wow.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thank
It's
you for
tough.
sharing. Yeah, thank all of you for sharing. This is deep.
Here to be honest. Hopefully our
Yeah,
stories can help the youngers.
and
Yeah.
that's the goal here. The goal here is not just to say this because we want to sit here and pour our pain out on a podcast, but the goal is to because there's somebody that's right now 20 years old about to do the same thing, and they don't know why. They don't know why. Um, but we're gonna help them to figure it out tonight. So I'm gonna ask a real brief question, real quick. Has everybody here, or did you grow up with a stepfather at any point, a step parent at any point?
Kind of. My mom moved her boyfriend in. That was annoying, but it was only for a little bit of time.
Okay, Kyra, no, you said no,
Uh-uh.
no. Anthony, yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
I had the typical stereotypical stepfather where he favored his son more than me and completely showed me utter disrespect where his son could hook up his PlayStation to my TV and play it, but I couldn't hook up his PlayStation to my TV.
Mm.
Where he got Nikes, I got Pro Wings.
Oh,
He got $10 for allowance, I got $1. So yeah, I did.
oh my gosh.
Mm. Okay.
That's
I mean,
abuse. I'm sorry, I'm a social worker. That's abuse. It is. Neglect abuse. I can't.
Nah, it's lessons. It's lessons.
it's yeah. I'm glad you said that. I mean, I have a similar story, but I'm not very similar. I'll give you one. I was Christmas morning, 1985. I want to say I woke up to nothing under the tree for Christmas, but all of my brothers and sisters, because we had different fathers. My mother had babies by three different dudes, while she was married to the last two's father, and he was kind of my only father since I was 2 years old. But he did kind of one of Anthony's stepfather moves. That time he didn't buy me nothing. They had all these gifts. I'm sitting here, no fresh clothes to go out with the homies. I'm just stuck. I have nothing. The
Oh,
shoes I had at the time had a hole at the bottom where my sock would always come out. That's how I went spent my that Christmas day, right? So, and I'm asking these questions, y'all, because a lot of us didn't experience a uh, a healthy relationship to be a role model for us, right? Um, let's be honest. The hood is more of the Evans style of things, but there was not really a James in the house, right? If y'all know what I mean. So if we didn't have a father in the house that gave us a role model of what it looked like as a boy or a girl, I think that it's safe to say that that would affect the way we choose when we grow up,
mhm.
right? Women won't know how to choose a man, and technically, watch this: a man won't know how to be a man first and foremost, let alone know how to choose a woman that's going to be good for him because he's never seen what that looks like.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So unfortunately, this is a really big deal in our community, and people are going out here creating children with this as their mainframe of thinking going into relationships.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Now, tell me this: where on planet Earth, in any community, does this exist outside of the hood as the norm?
It
Right.
doesn't.
Nowhere.
Hmm. If you all had it to do over again, if you can rewind the clock and start all over again, would you have chosen this path as a single parent now, knowing what you've gone through, knowing how tough it could be, especially if you got to do the whole drop off to the other parent thing? That stuff is crazy. Like, if you can, if you can rewind the clock now, would you do this differently, or would you keep it the same? Where you're basically you're okay with your decisions thus far? Would you change anything? I'll go with Kyra on this. She's in deep thought right now.
I would change it. I would definitely be married before I have my son because it's a
And why?
struggle.
Why is it a
It's a
struggle to you?
struggle. I because of I feel like before, if I had done the healing that I needed to do, the work on myself that I needed to do
Mm-hmm.
before I chose my son's father, wouldn't be him.
Mm.
It would be somebody that was, um, for lack of a better word, a man, a good man that could be a provider, not just financially, but in all regards. And I feel like I was holding on to the lack that I had. So it
Mm-hmm.
would allow me, had I done the work that I used to do, it allow me to make better decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I want to be in a relationship, still desire to be in a relationship where um, there is love, because I didn't really feel like I, my mom and dad were together, but there was so much chaos in their relationship that because my dad didn't grow up with knowing his father, my mom, she was one of 14, and
Mm.
her mom got married 3 times. So she had stepfathers.
Mm.
And so I just feel like I would change it. I don't know. Did I answer your question?
I think so. Yeah, I think you did. I think you did. Wow. Okay. I want you to breathe through that one right there because that's a lot. I mean, that's a lot. When we open this stuff up, one thing about this podcast, I want it to be able to where you guys can have a safe space to be able to let it out. But I don't want you to just let it out and leave with it on your heart and your mind. Like, I want to be able to speak about it. At the same time, I want to try to help y'all with the process as we exit the conversation because this is too much heavy stuff to get out of here and then go leave and sit with later on. You probably haven't talked about this in a long time, if ever. Like, not too many people have this conversation,
Right.
That's true.
right? So, whew, I know I would change a whole lot of stuff, but it ain't about me today. So, Anthony, would you change anything if you could?
Yes, I definitely would. I know this might sound a little strange, but
Hmm.
I would have dated more
Mm.
Ah, okay.
because what I did was I used women for sex. I didn't get to know them. I didn't want
Mm.
to get to know them out of being scared of being hurt. But I think I would have dated more with a purpose to see who they were, what they were about, and I probably would have chose someone else.
Mm.
Mm.
Oh, y'all getting to the good stuff. Thank you, Anthony. What about you, Jasmine?
Yeah. Hmm. Honestly, I don't know. Like just thinking about my life and kind of where I'm at, I don't think I would. I think I would do it again. And the reason why I say that is because I've learned the most Like I've learned so much character development through this
Mhm.
hard thing. Like this was probably the worst and most traumatic thing I went through. Like I try to be kind to people. I really am enthusiastic. I really do love people.
Mhm.
And so like going through this situation that literally was like the worst thing for me. Um it developed me so much and I'm still being developed, but I feel like if this didn't happen, I wouldn't have leveled up as much as I have. Like and it's not because of where I'm at in my life. I feel like I'm, I mean, I've accomplished some stuff, but I do feel like it's more about where I'm at with my relationship with God and like where I'm at with myself. And um, I mean, obviously, I want to be married. I definitely have learned to not, to keep working on my boundaries, to keep putting myself first. And by putting myself first means like sometimes I really do have to critically think about my decisions. Like, I actually just blocked this guy off of Facebook because I'm super busy right now. Like, I have a lot happening and working on my, showed you guys, I just um, launched my book and all this other stuff. And I let him know that I'm unavailable until the summertime because I have a lot happening. And he proceeds to continue to like ask me when I'm available and all this other stuff and why can't you talk now? And it's just like, you know what? Sometimes I used to be like, oh, but I don't want to hurt his feelings. And that's what got me in this place that's what got me to this place in the first, the several times I've been in relationships was just not caring about my boundaries and kind of lowering them and lowering the standard. But now at this point, because I've gone through this hard stuff, I'm not going to lower my standards anymore, no matter what. So that's it. Stuff that I've been working on is what helped me. Um, yeah, when I got pregnant and just going through this hard stuff. So I wouldn't take it back.
Hmm. There's a African proverb that says, if you remove a child from the other parent, you permanently alter the destiny of that child. Now, why did I say that? Because it seems like everybody here has, and this is a hood thing. This is really a hood thing. People really get comfortable in that space that we've seen over and over again. If you had a step parent, if you had parents break up, if you were not born with both parents in the same household, it's going to be tough for you to understand what I'm about to say. But see, we're not supposed to pick these spouses for just us.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just for us. Because after us comes these children. After these children come these grandchildren. And if we don't choose correctly the first time, you alter the destiny of every child coming after that.
I
It
don't
is
agree.
it is it's a proven fact, but if you look at it, if you do the database on the situations, you watch this. If my son, I told my son this not too long ago, he's 26. I said, do not get with a woman. This is going to sound very bad. I'm going to say it anyway. But I told him, do not get with the woman who already has children. Don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a lot of women say, why are you going to say that? Your mama was single. You're absolutely right. That's the reason. That's the reason. He is 26. He doesn't have any children. I want my grandchild to grow up with two parents that he chose selectively, purposely.
Yeah.
That's what I want to see. I don't want my grandchildren to grow up like I had to or he had to,
Mm-hmm.
driving 100 miles one way to pick him up on the weekend and then have to do it all over again in traffic in LA. Like I don't want him to have to go through that. Because that permanently, I wasn't able to be in his life as much as I wanted to, or he wanted me to. He later told me that. But when we do these things and we select people for the reasons that we probably don't even know at the time,
Yeah.
but are not the right reasons because that's the one for me, and we choose to have children by these people, we permanently change the trajectory because your child is not going to grow up in a house with two people. He's not going to see his parents in a loving relationship.
Mhm.
I don't care if it came from a step parent. Me personally, I don't care. I don't care about a good step parent. I care about two biological good parents
Right.
because those are the two who made these children. Their genes is in those children. Their ancestry and their purpose is connected to those children, not the step parent. But that's a thing in our society because the majority of us have grown up to accept the idea of step parenting. They have grown up to accept the idea of a baby daddy, baby mama, and they graduated this concept now to co-parenting. It's okay to co-parent. Why isn't it okay to co-parent in the same house? Why? Because it requires you to pick the right spouse from the gate before you have the children. And like we say, reverse the title of this podcast tonight, and that's to put the bridal shower before the baby shower. Choose the right person before you get married and have children. So I'm gonna go back to you, Jasmine.
Mhm.
So do you feel like if you chose the right spouse, this was the one for you, you had the person mapped out, the person was kind, he was supportive, he was generous, he was benevolent, he was humble, he was hardworking, he had a six pack, whatever else you needed on the table, right? Whatever else you needed on the table, right? Do
Right.
you feel like if you chose that person and you were still in love with this person to this day, and your son grew up in that house watching his father and his mother interact lovingly, that wouldn't affect the way he grows up and chooses a spouse?
Of course it would, but I mean, honestly, life happens. Like we're in a generation where people are doing things differently. Like look at Tia Mowry. She was married and now she's divorced and talking about this is what I'm gonna do to make my, life better and he's not for me and love is out there and it's like, but you're married, you found the one, he's your best friend. They have two children. And so it's like, what
That is
now you shake
psychotic.
your head, but I'm like, it like life happens. People, spouses
No.
die, spouses die. I honestly feel like life is gonna do what life is supposed to do. Relationships don't always work out. And I'm not saying mine wouldn't. I'm just saying in life, people's relationships just don't work out. People grow out of love. They choose to do whatever they want to do. And so I just feel like for us to say that you're
Hmm.
going to create this the next president of the United States, if they have the same parent and the same household
Hmm.
growing up seeing the same love, I just
Hmm.
feel like that is not 1,000% true because look at the world. A lot of people didn't grow up in the same household. I mean, with their, with their mothers or fathers or whatever. People's parents die. People's parents, I'm a social worker. I see it all the time. But some of the time, you just got to like literally overcome the circumstances by going to therapy, by doing what we have to do to gather maybe, spiritual fathers or a neighbor or the step parent or something like that. You do have to figure it out. And so I feel like to say my child's success is solely dependent upon the fact that I'm raising my daughter in a household with her father, I feel
Hmm.
like it's invalid. And that's just my
Wow.
personal opinion.
Okay, but we do know that the statistics go in the other direction.
That's fine, but this is Jasmine's opinion. I statistics can
Okay,
say what
okay,
you want to say.
okay. I just want to make sure, it's a lot of people who have tried that. I think I saw that story about her. But see, this is the problem. See, they put these people out here in Hollywood as the front of these concepts, like they are the people to follow in the first place. Who personally cares what this girl does?
Yeah, of
She's
course.
not she's not the model of
No.
what we're talking about, right? Because just because somebody got married doesn't mean that they knew what they were doing when they got married. Like, what is the purpose? And again, love is not the driving force of staying together. It's
Right.
just not. The only thing that's supposed to keep people together is what is your purpose? Because
Mhm.
love will go up and down. You will love them today and hate them tomorrow. They
Right.
will get on your nerves today and you will be infatuated with them tomorrow. That stuff fluctuates, but the purpose of it doesn't. If you all are both on the same page and you know why you are together, and of course the kids are included in that why we're together, but it's not just the children because you can't just stay together for children. That's a miserable life. But again, if you're choosing the people who fit the mold of what your purpose is,
Yeah,
love is the icing on top of that.
I agree.
You understand what I'm saying? So
Absolutely, yeah.
so if we're doing that, if we're taking that model and we're running with that model, there is no way that we can look at um, our children and say that their destiny can be fulfilled in this lifetime because we are their destiny. They came through us for that reason. That girl can go find some love somewhere else all she wants to, but whoever she finds is not connected to her children. Only her father are. Their father is.
Mm,
There's no way. He can love them. He can. I have an uncle, right? He's really good with my auntie's children. They're all grown now, but he raised the children. But at the end of the day, that child will always have a yearning for his own father or her own father. And that's something that a stepfather could never give him. I don't care how nice, how much he gives. He pays for the full scholarship to college. I don't care what he does. He can't have that DNA connection to that child. So if we remove the father for whatever reason that we have, or the mother for whatever reason that we have, that's our reason for moving them, which is kind of selfish because it's not about you no more. It's about these children that you have chosen to put on this planet. You made a choice to have sex with that person because you wanted that thing to feel good that night from that person. Now you have a child, and then you have the audacity to tell me love is somewhere else, and now this child is on this planet without his parent. What?
okay, not me. My daughter has.
No, not you, not you,
Okay.
not you, not you. I'm saying in general. I'm saying in general because this is a concept that's in our community that's just okay.
Mhm.
It's just okay, and it's not okay.
Right.
How do we change the way we change our community is through family first. Period. I don't care how much money you throw at it. I don't care how many new stores that's black owned on Crenshaw Boulevard that opens up tomorrow. I don't care. If the families that live in that community are still broken, nothing's changing.
Mhm.
Absolutely nothing's changing.
Right.
How you feeling, Kyra? I see you looking like, where's Crenshaw Boulevard? I'm just playing. How you feeling up there?
I'm good.
That was funny.
I'm good. I'm just taking it all in.
Hmm. But I'm saying all this, y'all, to say, listen, people are going to do what they want to do. But the goal of this is to have this conversation because I would love to see that 70% drop. We're at the top of this category, but at the
Right.
bottom of everything else.
Mm.
We're at the top of not staying with our children's parent, but we want a community. How does that make sense logically? Now, why is that okay? Because we've all seen this dysfunction throughout our lives.
Right.
I've said it before and I'm going to say it again. And this is what PTHD is based upon. The hood is traumatic. Not having your father in the house is traumatic. Me not having nothing for Christmas that day, even though I don't care nothing about Christmas to this day, I don't even celebrate Christmas no more. But
Oh.
at the end of the day, and in that moment, it was traumatic. Me not seeing my father until I was in the seventh grade in my life was traumatic.
Wow.
I'm sure Anthony's story is traumatic, right? Like these things are trauma so that when we grow up, watch how this works. When we grow up, your mind has recorded, everybody here, your mind has recorded what you've experienced. Now, when it shows back up, that mirror shows back up that you're used to, that's what you're going to choose. That's why you chose spouses that resemble your pain.
Ooh, that's a good one. I'm gonna write that down.
They resembled your pain, so you fell into it because it was comfortable at the time. But when it started hurting too bad, now you wanted to get away from it. The reason why you got with them wasn't worth it no more. But the question is, did you heal the reason why you found them in the first place? And if you don't heal that, you're just going to find a different one. That's how people can come with 2, 3, 4 baby mamas and daddies, because we're still carrying this same situation to the next person and normalizing it in our minds, making narratives around what they did or didn't do with being the reason why we ain't with them no more. No, you're not with them because you saw this in your mom and your daddy somewhere. So going back to my statement, removing the parent from the situation, it sends this whole situation, the family, down this rabbit hole that it's like a sunken place and it's hard to get out of it without a conscious decision to say, hey, that is not correct. I'm not going to keep doing this. Even though you may have made the decision to do that once or twice, like I did it twice, I made a decision after my last son, I'm not having no more kids until I find that person. I'm just not doing it. My youngest son is 21. I ain't had a kid since. I'm not doing it. Been married since then and divorced again. So, but that goes back into me. That goes back
You're the
into
problem. I'm just kidding. Just
I am. I am. I'm gonna accept that. I will accept that 10,000%. I am, because I was a product of that thing. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to pick a woman. I didn't see that. I didn't know that. My mother had 3 different baby daddies, if you want to call it that. I didn't know what a woman to choose. Not putting my mother down. Loved her. She's passed on now, but I didn't know what that was. Most men don't know what it is. Most men think it's the way she looks. It's her curve. It's sex. It's those physical outside things. We don't really know how to choose a good woman, if we're being honest. And to be honest, most women don't know how to choose a good man. How can you choose something you've never seen? If you grew up in the hood, what good man did you see that treated his woman just respectfully and loved her, brought her flowers every other day, washed her feet, ran bath water, cooked dinner for her, took the kids to school for her, came home, brought the check and put it on the table? Like how many people saw that? Be honest. Okay, now if you've never seen it, how you know what that looks like? Because all you've seen is Pookie and them out there banging and doing crazy stuff. Now, let's revisit that concept again. Is it important to keep the family together? I'm gonna say yes. I'm gonna vote for yes, because I think if we choose that route, PTHD can begin to heal. There's no such thing as to being healed, past tense, but I do believe that there is a such thing as healing. In other words, there's a such thing as taking the steps to heal. You will always be nursing those scars. You will always be tested with those scars, those traumas. It's going to be somebody going to holler at you in the grocery store. It's going to remind you of your child's father. Are you going to choose them though? If you don't heal it, you will choose them. They may just disguise it a little better than the next one. I'm just saying. It may come in a shiny Mercedes Benz. It may come in a nice house. It may come in a nice suit, smelling good, fresh cut, beard looking greasy, everything. It may come for men, it may come in this Coke bottle shape, smelling good. For me, no weave, like all of that. She may come in all of that, right? But what's her insides like? What's his insides like? It's a cold situation. I'm gonna wrap this up. Last question of the day. What is your purpose on this planet that you would like for your spouse, the right spouse, to align with? I will go with. We'll roll the dice. We'll roll the dice and see where I land. Where you go land? Why you pointing up? We ain't pointing up. We're going down. Jasmine, talk to me.
I'll talk to you. I got you guys. That's what I'm talking about. He just asked these questions that you never thought about. No, I'm just kidding. Um, Honestly, I definitely do want a purpose partner. For me, my whole thing is character development. I feel like when you work on yourself, and
Mm-hmm.
what I'm talking about, learning coping, because like we don't always have the best days. We learn how to get through them, like whether that's breathing or whatever that is. I want
Mm-hmm.
somebody that is partnered with God, and so yeah, my purpose goes around with character development and teaching other people like how to cope and how to grow through situations like this traumatic one that we're all talking
Mm-hmm.
about today. So that's more so what I feel like my purpose partner is going to be able to help me accomplish, and we'll do that together.
Okay. Okay. Ashe. Kyra, what's your purpose partner look like?
I'm such a person. I really enjoy giving back to the community and building systems to improve the community. So that's something that, or our community more specifically, that's something that I want to do, and that's something that I want my purpose partner to align with me.
Giving back to the community.
Yeah.
So he has to have some talents with giving back to the community that aligns with what you're doing, right?
Yeah. To some degree.
Some degree. Okay. Okay. Are y'all wondering why I asked that question?
Because you want to know if we've moved on past our baby daddies or something. I don't know.
No, not
Oh,
even at all. Not at
okay.
all. Um, I asked because if we're going to choose the right person this time around, if we do not want to repeat, and you said you were okay with yours, Jasmine, but uh, if we do not want to repeat this cycle, first and foremost, I've been doing a lot of interviews with people for the last 3 years with my Ori&E business that I have, where I help people with psychological situations, mindsets, and I've noticed that a lot of people don't know what their purpose is. They think their purpose is the job that they do, um, and other things that are exterior. Um, and I find that people who don't know their purpose will choose another person who don't know their purpose, and they're depending on love to be the solution to everything. And that's just not reality. That's just not reality.
Agreed.
Um, so I'm a person that's really big, and this is something again that's not taught in the hood. You're not taught to find your purpose. You're taught to survive, get a job, and survive. Like you're not taught to find out who you are.
Mhm.
And can you imagine finding someone who's actually on that page, like who they are, and y'all meet in Starbucks, sharing a lactate at one moment when those stars align, and damn, you on that too? Really? Wow. Like that's a whole different vibration. That once you get on that page with that person, yeah, you have a better chance at surviving that when love starts to fade. And then we can have children. And then we can have a community. And then we can have a society where at least our numbers go from 70% down and start looking everybody else in the eye like we can do this too.
Absolutely.
Any closing remarks from you guys before we get out of here? I'll go with Kyra first. Any closing remarks, statements? Come on, Miss Podcast. What you got?
I don't got nothing.
You don't have nothing? Come on.
I can't think of nothing right now. Come
I,
back to me.
you got something, girl. We know it.
If you saw a young lady going down the same pathway, what would you tell her?
You know what I was thinking when we was talking about us selecting, finding how we find our partners, how you find a good woman, how you find a good man.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized, and I was having this conversation with my sisters, that we were never taught how to date.
Exactly.
So for me, I was raised a Jehovah's Witness. So at the hall, it's like you just date somebody that's evenly yoked. You just date somebody that's at the hall, you marry them. But it wasn't even like what's the purpose? Right? That's something that we don't do. We don't explore that. It's just and that actually also contributes to the issue of just, having the baby before the marriage.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking about that, but that just came to mind.
I'm sure.
So I guess that's a closing remark, maybe.
Thank you for that brilliant jewel you just dropped on us real quick. All right. Jasmine, what you got in closing, sis?
Mm, honestly, I think that even if we've had a baby before the bridal shower, just don't give up. I was ashamed, condemned, felt guilty for doing that out of wedlock, but the goal is to overcome. So if it did happen to you, like your goal should always be to pursue better, to get better, to build your character, to work on the co-parenting relationship you have with your child's father, and really work on becoming a whole healed person, because that is going to help you find someone who you are going to attract to be your purpose partner. And yeah, pretty much just don't give up, and forgive yourself if you're feeling condemned for having a baby before the bridal shower. And for those who haven't had any kids yet, keep working on yourself and your goals, and make sure you hold to your boundaries and your standards.
Ashay. Ashay. Thank you so much. Anthony, do you have any closing remarks? I know you've been popping in and out of here playing double dutch here. Um,
Yeah, the wind over here is really bad. I'm sorry, you guys.
okay.
What I'm gonna suggest is before you have children, really get to know the person. Really get to develop a relationship with the person. Date, go out, and if you get married, try to stick it out. It's gonna be rough sometimes. It's gonna be hard, but unless it's abusive, try to stick with it.
Hmm.
And that's all.
With that being said, I will drop the jewel of the day.
Uh oh.
If I
Someone
found
has something to
someone, exactly. If I found someone who was going down this, and I've seen it many a times, and I will tell you, just like I told my son, and I'll tell anybody else's child. First, I'm gonna ask you, who are you? Who are you? Don't tell me what you do for a living. Don't tell me what you like. I want to know who you are as a person. And when I ask who you are, I'm asking about your character. Because the things that you do for a living will come on its own. A person's purpose is entrenched in what their character looks like. Are they truthful? Are they honest? Are they dedicated to what they're doing? Are they patient? Are they hopeful? Are they humble? Like these, are they benevolent? These things is what you need to start working on within yourself. Because if you come from the hood, I guarantee you everything I just named is fractured. Because the hood doesn't breed that. So you have to put a cast on all that and let it start healing. And as you develop those character traits, you will begin to see how you show up in the world, right? How you are presented to your friends, to your family, let alone to a future spouse. Because what you do is going to come out of all of that. If you have good character and these things in alignment, you're not going to just gravitate to anything. You just couldn't do it logically. So, and you're not going to just choose anyone because you can. Don't work that way. So, I would tell them, work on your character. Secondly, scrap everything you learned in the hood and start all over again. That sounds harsh, but it's a reality because you really can't take that with you. Our minds are a computer motherboard. If you got a virus in that board and it's affected your computer to where it doesn't work anymore, guess what you got to do? Start all over again. And that's the beauty about the mind, because the mind can recreate scenarios. It can reprogram itself. It can send new neurons out every day, all day, every second, every fraction of the second of a day. You can recreate your mind to what you want it to be. You don't have to keep the same program playing from the hood. If you do character work, it will begin to delete those files by itself. And when you meet the right person, you will know because she's on the same page as you and she understands it. The pool will be real short, which is a good thing. You won't be going on so many dates because you're not going to want to date just anybody. You're only going to want to date the person who fits this scenario. And if you do that, in my Ori at least, you have a chance, your spouse has a chance, and you will give your children a chance to live their destiny and see y'all through this process we call life together as a family, and we can change these numbers. That's just me, though. Thank y'all for joining me today. This has been a very interesting conversation. I hope y'all enjoyed it. If anybody wants to contact us, I want to make sure they know how to contact you all. I know, Jasmine, you have a book. Please let them know where to find your book and all that information.
Hi, guys. Again, my book is called Pregnant and Unprepared Confessions of a Single Mother. It's on Amazon.
Ashe.
Yeah.
Kyra, want to promote the podcast? What you want to do? Talk to me.
Okay, my podcast is the Leap Before You Look podcast. It's all about living without regrets, and you can find me on everything social. Leap Before You Look podcast.
Ashe. Thank you all for joining me today. This has been fun. Appreciate y'all. I am King Ruler. This is Post-Traumatic Hood Disorder, or PTHD, Heal PTHD podcast. Look forward to more coming real soon. We give thanks and praise and we say Ashe to all. Let's shift this paradigm. We out. I shizzle.